Ray Anderson, former NFL Executive VP of Football Operations. He was in the job before Troy Vincent. He was a member of the league office for a long time, and he was part of the NFL when the Rooney Rule was adopted nearly 20 years ago. He had some strong comments about why or if Dan Rooney's name should still be attached to it because of what it has become. Here's what he said, among other things. In that room, when we were talking about the Rooney Rule, what we talked about was it can't be short-lived. It can't be tokenism. It's got to be a deep and committed initiative that is sustainable. We thought we had an agreement and promise to that, but over time, we reverted back to the same old practices. I think they should take the Rooney name off the rule that now has no teeth. It's an embarrassment. Mr. Dan Rooney was a real advocate and really meant to have change. I think it does a disservice to Mr. Rooney and the family. I would love to see them make change that is positive, but don't utilize Mr. Rooney's name anymore because now when you think of the Rooney Rule, very frankly, it's a negative perception. I think that's offensive personally. Mr. Rooney deserves much more. And that's very well put by Ray Anderson. And really, the Rooney Rule has become, I don't want to say a punchline, but very few people utter it and think of it the way that it was intended to be thought of, that it was some sort of a beacon for positive change, and it was an example of how the NFL was going to pull itself into the 21st century with the right approach to ensuring fair hiring practices. Now, it emerged from a point where the NFL was threatened with litigation, so I don't know that it was ever a good context for it to even begin. The NFL, fearful that it was going to be sued, decided we better do something.
Yeah.
And the problem is what they did. And Chris, I saw it early on. You know, I mean, I don't disagree with Ray Anderson's comments, but this started early on. First year, Matt Millen violates it. First or second year, he violates it blatantly when he hired Steve Mariucci. He fires Marty Mornhinweg late in the process. No minority candidate interviews for the job. Sherm Lewis says, that's a sham. I'm not sitting for that. Everybody knows you're hiring Steve Mariucci. Matt Millen hires him, and he gets fined $500,000. And then Jerry Jones hires Bill Parcells and does a very check-the-box move to interview by phone Dennis Green before he completes the deal with Bill Parcells to comply with the Rooney Rule, and the NFL had to get rid of that loophole. Can't be a phone interview. It's got to be face-to-face. And I feel like the NFL spent 15 years chasing around teams that were taking advantage of loopholes rather than teams that were properly honoring the spirit of the rule. And the spirit of the rule is this. It's very simple. And Coach Dungy advocates this all the time. I don't think anybody listens to him. But the idea is don't go into the process knowing who you're going to hire.
Exactly.
Don't have a decision in mind when you start the process. Now, human nature is such that before you get rid of the coach you have, you want to have an idea of the coach you're going to hire.
Sure.
So I don't know how much of that is even effective, but the idea is to convince these teams to not start with an ending point in mind. That's been the problem, because I think more often than not, I was told before this year's hiring cycle, 70 to 80% of the time, they already had
They
the
already
ending point
knew.
in mind.
Right. It's already baked in more times than not. It really is. It's already like baked into the point where I would think teams are more examples than not of, hey, we're about to fire our coach, and they've already narrowed it down to the one or two guys they really want. I think it's very rare where it's actually a clean interview process where the team really not sure where they're going to go, and they're going to just listen and really like evaluate the candidates. Very rarely does that happen. I mean, I feel like it's like once a hiring cycle, really. And, as far as Ray Anderson's concerned, I mean, he's right. I mean, he's exactly right. It's gotten to the point where it's a joke, period. And it's certainly a joke to the African-American coaches, which is what we need to respect. They're all telling us this. They're telling us in plain day. It's disrespectful. And I think if you look at it in any other way, I mean, I don't care how you substitute people in and out. It is disrespectful. The rule has been disrespected. It is disrespectful also to the Rooney family. Mr. Rooney was a guy that was at the forefront of this and trying to change it. And I know the NFL did this to, spark positive change, but as we've seen here, it's been just taken advantage of. It has, and that's the current place we're at, and I think Ray Anderson said it right. I really do. I agree with just about everything he said right there, And the fact that, maybe the fact that we're disrespecting the African Americans so much in this process, maybe the fact that Ray Anderson brings into the fact that, hey, now we're starting to disrespect older rich white guy that was a staple to the NFL, maybe that'll open some eyes a little bit more to make people realize like it is disrespectful across the board to a bunch of people right now with how this is being handled.
Well, and the Rooney Rule itself is going to become a problem for the NFL within the confines of the pending litigation that was filed February 1 by Brian Flores and amended last week to include Steve Wilkes and Ray Horton, because the mere existence of the Rooney Rule confirms that there's a problem.
Yeah, right.
That these owners can't be trusted to engage in a diverse and inclusive search without a mandate from the league to do it. They can't be trusted to do it on their own. They have to be told to do it under threat of six-figure fine. They have to be told to do it. And even then, they still find ways around it. And I remember, without even having to look it up, I've lived these over the years. When Dan Snyder decides he's hiring Mike Shanahan, period.
Yeah.
Jim Zorn's out, Mike Shanahan's in. Oh, what about the Rooney Rule? Oh, God. All right, what are we going to do here? I know. We interviewed Jerry Gray before we hired Jim Zorn. Let's go with that. Yeah, let's go with that. Okay. Didn't we have a conversation with Jerry Gray about something? Didn't Jim Zorn's name come up? Yeah, let's go with that. And I'm oversimplifying it, but that's basically what it was. That's how they complied. They interviewed Jerry Gray, who was a member of the staff, before they fired Jim Zorn, while the job still was occupied by Zorn. They interviewed a member of his staff to replace Jim Zorn. That's how they complied with the Rooney Rule. And again, the loopholes have been plugged. Now you have to have 2 external minority candidates who are interviewed, except after March 1, as we learned a couple of weeks ago with the Buccaneers situation. That's a loophole that's going to be plugged before it can be exploited by someone like Jerry Jones, who decides out of the blue after March 1 of any year, I'm throwing overboard the guy I have, and I'm bringing in Sean Payton, or I'm elevating a guy on the staff who's kind of the head coach in waiting, and I don't have to comply with the Rooney Rule. So, there's been so much effort spent by teams to not comply with it. That makes it even worse. They create a rule that demonstrates these organizations, these owners can't be trusted to have an inclusive, diverse search without a threat that they must. And then they spend 20 years coming up with all sorts of ways to get around it. God, that makes for a hell of a case for Brian Flores, Steve Wilkes, and Ray Horton. And I know in their individual cases they have to have evidence, but when you consider the statistical hiring practices, when you consider this Rooney Rule shell game that was played and is still being played, that's not good for the league. That's not good, Chris, for anybody.
No, of course it's not. It's not good for the league, and that's where there's got to be some different formula figured out here for the hiring process. And I don't know.
What the formula is? You know what the formula is? The formula is a jury reaching a verdict in the tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars against the NFL. The formula is the NFL holding owners accountable the way that some think they're going to hold Stephen Ross and Daniel Snyder accountable, that there's going to be someone who goes down in order to get the other owners to realize you aren't covered in Teflon. You aren't covered in Kevlar, Velcro, Teflon, one of the three, whichever one protects you. You aren't covered in that.
It's the Teflon Don. Come on, what are you? You don't know that? Come on.
Yeah, you don't get just because you're the guy who has all the money and you go buy the team and you're surrounded by sycophants who always tell you what you want to hear. There's a point where that doesn't work anymore. And we're not going to let you be part of this club if you don't know how to properly run your business. And that's what it's going to take. Because when you break it down individually, I feel like the attitude for the owners is, oh, this is great. I agree. Great. Yeah, we need to do this. Somebody else will do it. I'm still hiring the guy I want.
Yeah, that's the problem. We've talked about it a lot. I mean, again, the NFL, it's baked in. It's deep-rooted in its whiteness. It is. It's just there's a lot of family trees and tentacles and connections of people that way. So that's where it's hard to overcome. I think there's got to, to me, the thing that I would like to see more than anything, at least to start, is kind of what Tony Dungy says. That, to me, would be the best way to at least make it fair right off the bat. It's just no interview process early. Everybody's got to wait at the same time for it all to start. So it can nobody gets a head start, or, there's no finagling, oh, we did this now and we're going to wait until this guy's done or whatever else. That to me would go a long way to start the process. And I don't know, I don't know if there's anything else either. I got to think about it more, but it's a tough spot that the NFL is in right now. And there is a real issue. Mr. Rooney is being disrespected with this crappy rule that's being taken advantage of. The whole Rooney family is, and that's certainly not a good look. It's not their intent. And Mr. Rooney, of course, was at the forefront of this whole thing. So, I don't know, though. The problem is how to fix it. And that's where I can't quite figure it out. Throw some ideas out there, but I just feel like even when I throw an idea, I go, well, these 32 owners will figure out a way to finagle that too. And that's where I just don't know how to get to the bottom of it.
I do like the idea of delaying the process, because through the delay, maybe an owner can be introduced to someone other than the one that they enter the process hell-bent on hiring.
Right.
So the passage of time. See, here's what's the real challenge. You have to create an environment where there's an opportunity to change the mind of the owner, but to let the owner always believe he's changing his or her mind on his or her own. That it's not someone changing my mind. There's an occasion there for minds to be changed about what the predetermined outcome will be, but that person, that owner, that one who is used to exercising full and complete dominion over any and all assets that this person has acquired or inherited, as the case may be, that I'm the one who's making this decision. No one's pushing me to make this decision. Look, it's basic human nature. You give someone a lot of power and a lot of money, one of the things they want to do is exercise it and remind everyone that they have the power and money that allows them to do whatever they want to do. That's why I think sometimes the more that the league tries to push back,
the more they push
resentment
back
is created.
Yeah,
because we just want to remind you who's really in charge here.
Yeah.
And we want to remind you, Roger Goodell, who you work for. You work for us, Roger Goodell. We don't work for you. A little subtle, rarely does someone articulate that, but that message comes through, and the challenge becomes having the league more involved and finding a way to use the right touch, the right approach to get the owners to do the right thing, and having them conclude on their own that the thing they want to do coincidentally is the right thing. Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. Right, that is the problem. It's hard. The league is full of those, let alone the owners. But it's full of egos and guys and people that you tell them something and they go, screw you, how dare you tell me this? And they'll go out of their way to almost do the opposite just because somebody said it to them. I mean, it's through and through. This is coaches, front office, owners. They all got it, let alone we know the billionaire owners have that. I mean, yes, we do know that. So, again, hopefully we can continue to start this conversation, or not start it, but kick around ideas and continue to get people involved in this. And I know we got people thinking of things, but, yeah, this is not an easy fix. It's not. It's hard to tell an owner who to hire. But it's not hard to make the process fair. And that's where I do blame the owners and the fact that they've not made the process fair. The fix is almost always in 90% of the time with all these hires. They never go in with a clean slate. Let me just take it for what it is and see each guy. They've already been sold a bill of goods by an agent or somebody they know in the league, and they fire their head coach. They are 95% sure who they're going to hire after that, and the rest of it is just BS, BS, BS.
Well, hopefully the litigation initially brought by Brian Flores will help change things. Hopefully the fact that 6 attorneys general are paying close attention to the way the NFL is doing its business will help change things. Hopefully whatever the fair outcome is for the pending investigations involving Dan Snyder and Stephen Ross will get other owners to realize that maybe they need to change. But you know what? Through it all, Chris, the Denver Broncos are for sale, and here comes S. Robson Walton, heir to the Walmart fortune, worth $70 billion, and he's going to plunk down $4 or $5 billion, and he's going to be the latest member of Club Oligarch.
Wow.
And Well, I mean, that's reportedly he was ready to make a
you.
bid, and he can make whatever bid it's going to take to buy that team. If he decides he wants that team, he's one of the people walking the face of the earth who can write the check, who can show up with the bag of cash or bags of cash, as the case may be, to buy the team.
Right.
If he wants that team, he's getting that team.
Yeah.
But again, it's another situation where we have the most rich and powerful people in the country who are in charge of these teams, and then you try to get them to do something different than what they want to do. I've paid my $5 billion. I'll hire whoever I damn well please.
Right.
Good luck convincing that person to step back from that, because even if that person is walking into potential liability, you think Rob Walton is going to flinch? He's worth $70 billion. Do you think he's going to flinch at being embroiled in litigation for the next 5 years? He's probably been embroiled in litigation on some matter or the other for the last 5 years. You don't get to that much wealth and power and influence without constantly having the little minnows of litigation nibbling at your feet as you stand in the built-in pool on the third deck of your super yacht. I've got the metaphors all screwed up there, but the point is they don't care.
That was good. I was enjoying.
I don't
the
think you're gonna have minnows. You're not gonna have minnows in the pool anyway. But the point is,
you
they just
you never
don't
know.
care.
You never know, right?
They just don't care. You're gonna sue me? I've been sued for the last 50 years continuously. Sue me. I don't care. I got enough money that I don't care. When you got $70 billion, you don't care. And when you own a football team, that team becomes it's like a point of pride. For these, like, how else do you measure yourself as somebody who is worth billions? You get to a point where, okay, I got 50 billion, 60 billion, 70 billion. Who cares? I got more money than I can ever spend, more money than I can ever count, more money than I could ever put in a room. So I got a football team. And this football team is something that millions follow. And this football team becomes part of me. It's part of my identification.
Yeah,
so the better
right.
the team is, the more important and powerful I look. It becomes an extension of their ego. And damn it, they're not going to entrust it to anybody that someone from the league is trying to get them to entrust it to. They're going to entrust it to who they want to. That's the problem.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, that's the problem.
No, it definitely is, Mike. It's a problem. It's rich problem, big money problem. And, yeah, there's definitely going to be those issues in the NFL. So I don't know. I really don't know. It's a shame that we're in this process. It's a shame that people have made a sham of it, so often. But I think all we can do is, again, bring light to it and continue to push the conversation. And hopefully we can get some real answers and some real detailed plan of attack from the NFL and people around it to fix the problem.
Packers got it right. And I've said this before. All these teams should just be corporations. Now, there'll still be somebody who rises up with all the shares and runs it and is in a similar situation. But at least in a corporation, the CEO can be fired by the board. You can have internal committees and approaches and policies that will ensure that you don't have one person who runs amok. You don't have one person who is so permanently tied to the team. The identity of that person is inextricably connected to that team. That I just feel like at a psychological level, we need a break like that. We just can't have this small group of extremely rich and powerful people who do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, and these teams are an extension of their egos, and they're going to run them however they see fit. I just feel like that kind of unchecked power is not good for the league. It's not good for the Shield. It's not good for anybody.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.